Coming up in this video, first off, welcome. Welcome to Zen Rose Garden behind the scenes. Coming up in this video, mediumship definition. This is part of our mediumship development training.
Topics we go on about when we don't have adult supervision.
If you are just getting to know us,
I'm Heather.
and I'm David
From Zen Rose Garden.
.com,
If you are a healing arts professional,
or you want to be.
we want to know about it. So put a hashtag HealingPro in the comments and let us know what you do. Because we've done a few videos on our channel about defining mediumship, but we always like to look for new ways to let you know what mediumship is about, because we kind of have the public civilians, as we call them, kind of have a sometimes a narrow perspective of what mediumship is. So
Paradigmical approach.
okay.
Right?
Right.
New word that is difficult to break. So we want to know,
How do you experience what you would call mediumship for yourself?
Yes.
Have you experienced mediumship yourself, or have you ever had a mediumship reading? How have you experienced what we call mediumship? Okay.
and Jolie says, I see spirit, but I don't get messages.
Okay. Let's kind of get into it a little bit, because most people think mediumship looks like traditional spiritualist mediumship message delivery, but that is only one way.
And that was a mouthful.
Okay.
There are so many different ways that mediums use their ability.
A lot of people don't use mediumship in the really expansive way it could be used. So some may not even consider themselves mediums by civilian terminology in traditional sense, but are still using mediumship.
So let's get into the definition. So first, mediumship defined is simply the process of receiving information from this realm of invisible reality. We're going to explain what that means in just a minute.
So before we get to the spirit world or heaven or the afterlife where grandma lives, let's just call it the invisible reality, from sort of a non-descriptive, generic, but not really. So you can call it the spirit world.
Absolutely. Afterlife, you can call it another dimension, but all of that falls under the category of what we like to call invisible reality from a parapsychology perspective.
Right, because it's all something that we feel, we sense, we tap into, we get messages from, we connect with, but we all have a different way to describe it. In other words, we as a human people group, like all the human peoples as
a whole unit,
don't see it all the time like you can see the sky, and we can generally come to a agreement about what the sky looks like.
What color it is, the same thing with the mountains, for example.
But like with invisible reality, so general umbrella term for the spirit world, as we're going to talk about it, it has to be tuned into. You have to take yourself out of the realm of apparent reality and get into invisible reality. Okay?
Right, absolutely. So without descriptives, like heaven, limbo, alternate dimensions, and such like that, mediumship is information that comes to us from that invisible reality, from a disembodied energy of some kind. Just getting a little bit more parapsychology technical up in here.
So, for example, you have psychic information, which is from person to person, a living person to a different person, to another living person, and then you've got mediumship information, which is technically psychic information from a living person to a person without a body, or
a disembodied energy, right?
But it's still psychic to psychic.
Yes.
But mediumship involves someone without a physical body.
Right, and this could be grandma or something else, some higher energy,
angels, God, whatever.
It's really, really, really hard to define, even if we want to, because it is a subjective reality. You've got an objective reality like the sky that we can all kind of agree on is mostly blue, sometimes beautiful during the sunset or sunrise, with multicolors.
Pretty hard to define, but what we're talking about is subjective reality. This is where people start to mince definitions and argue, and really there's no real reason to argue about it, because we all see it the way we see it. So
please don't argue. Find common ground, find commonalities. Blazing Turtle says, I feel like my mediumship abilities only kick in when someone is in front of me in need of something. I don't always give them a message, but I feel like they were brought to me for healing. Absolutely. And does that make sense? Yes, absolutely. Usually people say they feel better when they leave me, and I don't even do or say much, but I feel like something has changed.
So that's how your mediumship shows up. So your mediumship ability may be more in the realm of healing mediumship,
right?
Which is not necessarily giving somebody a message from grandma in the spiritualist tradition of platform mediumship.
So it's not necessarily the big show of message mediumship that so many people are familiar with, but it's still a message from spirit or an experience from spirit.
It's a healing experience from spirit. So in the tradition of laying on of the hands in many spiritual traditions, that
for
is
example,
still a part of mediumship because there's a connection being made consciously or non-consciously from the other side, from invisible reality, whatever label you want to put on it, brought in for a higher purpose, for healing, for furthering of our experience on earth from the other side.
There is a tremendous amount of healing that takes place from spirit to human reality.
Well, in legend, who would be the most healing medium of all time? Maybe the Jesus guy, right?
Jesus Christo?
Jesus would be considered a healing medium. I thought I would give you guys kind of an experience that we had this week with one of our students.
Anna happens to be a student of ours.
She's attended all of our workshops through the years on mediumship and really trained herself in the techniques of mediumship. But she got to a point where she's like, I learned it all. I think it's great. It's amazing. It's really helped me. But I feel like I don't really, being a medium isn't really my thing. But I'm glad for the experience. But she didn't realize how she actually used it. And then she started doing recordings. She works for National Day Calendar. And there's a radio show that they have coming out. Each episode of the radio show is about an unsung hero that is passed on to the other side that maybe did something great that wasn't like the Neil Armstrong or somebody you've heard of, but somebody that made a big difference behind the scenes.
That you haven't heard of.
And so she started doing the recordings of it. Oh my gosh, this is how I use my mediumship. So she called me up on the phone and she read me what she wrote and she said, I can't believe it. I wanted to connect to this person who's passed away and I connected and I wrote this, tell me what you think.
Just
and I
channeled it.
And I went, she's like, I feel like I was tapping into this person and I was writing their story like they wanted it to be told. She said, and then I went to the recording studio, I laid the tracks, told the story, narrated it for the radio show, and the recording engineer was like in tears. From this huge thing, and she's like, I wanted to let you guys know that's my special spice.
That's how it shows up for me.
That's how the connection works.
And then Abigail says, I always wished that I was. I've been told I was empathic and highly sensitive, but I just don't know. Abigail, it takes some practice and it takes some really good education under your belt to kind of understand what it is that you're actually experiencing already. She says, I feel like my mind always takes over. That would be another thing. And my biggest suggestion for you is to understand and learn what your baseline energy is, what your baseline emotions are. When those emotions start shifting, then most likely it's not going to be your emotion that you're experiencing. You may be just channeling somebody else's emotion. And here's the thing, is that emotions are fastest methods of delivery. Okay, it is much easier to explain a story through emotion than it is to slow it down into human words. Okay?
So I think a lot of, experiences of unfolding as a medium is to figure out what your special spice is. And when you go into learning mediumship with the idea that you're going to be this way and that way and start to put parameters on it, you kind of unfold in a really awkward way because that might not be your predisposition. Like what you're actually supposed to become as a medium might look very different from what you think it looks like. So a lot of civilians, I'm going to do this quotes, who watch mediumship on Facebook Lives or on platforms or TV. That's only one way of hundreds of ways that people, mediums, use their mediumship. Like our friend Anna uses her mediumship in such an incredible way. That
to channel these people's message that don't have a body anymore, and she's literally taking their message, embodying it, and bringing it out in voice, in word, in phrase.
Well, and telling a story that the radio show is very inspirational about people behind the scenes that used their special abilities to be heroes that we've never heard about. The back end people that made a change that we don't know about. It's like the people in front get the big kudos, but the people behind the scenes who were the heroes that made it happen sometimes don't get their stories told. So tapping in and reading it, she could feel them coming through as she was writing the stories. Right. Well, when the radio show comes out, nobody that's listening to it is going to know that she used her mediumship to channel these energies and to give her stories an extra special emotion.
What they will know is the emotion conveyed and experienced by the receiver.
And that's one of the ways we talk about in mediumship, how if you let your ego get out of the way, how you get to the point where you don't need the credit for it,
right.
You can receive the credit and the joy from it by seeing what that end product brings for other people. And for her, that's kind of like her end product is the joy of bringing those stories to the world. She doesn't need to say, oh, I channeled this as the great medium that tapped into these people's stories. Because what's important is her art, her craft at the end of the day. And I think so many people's mediumship can show up this way. And so if we try to put ourselves in a box with our mediumship, we're really not taking the time to go on the adventure of what is our scope, what is our special spice. We're limiting ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. So Spiritual Energy says, mental mediumship is my platform, but as you know, it sometimes can come through all senses, empathy, feelings such as the clairsenses. It depends on the person and the persons that I read.
Yes.
Absolutely. So a part of that is being the receiver and delivering the message, right? And then the other part is based on the recipients in the room or in the proximity, wherever that message is being delivered to, that message can come across in the method of the receiver.
Right, because you've always got 3 people in the energy of a reading. If you're doing more traditional message mediumship or anything like that, you've got 3 people at least in this situation. You've got yourself as the medium, you've got the client who's in front of you, and then you've got the person in spirit. The only constant is you. Of course, you've got your guides, but I'm kind of counting them as you too. So you've got these 2 wild cards that are always going to feel different, show up different, that are going to awaken different senses in you. So when you feel the empathy and the stuff in your body, that's physical mediumship, right?
It really is,
physical energy activating.
If you take away the names and the categories and the boxes that you put things in, and you just use whatever simple words to describe things, you're going to find that you open up much more than people who need all of these definitions and need to fit into a particular box.
Well, like I say about, with our students, what I really like to do is eliminate the boxes because you are a whole person with a whole sensory instrument that most mediums and sensitives are not fully using. Because I think when you're training, it's good to learn about these things separately.
Learn about the boxes when you're training and then let go of the boxes when you're practicing.
And then let the boxes integrate because there are no boxes in reality. It's only theory that you're learning. Physical mediumship, mental mediumship, external, physical, internal. So there's a lot of, but it's great to learn those theories.
So that you know better definitions. It's not about putting yourself in the box.
Right, but what happens is they integrate in your subconscious.
And then you have a broader spectrum of information to pull from.
So we've covered a different experience in mediumship because we do want to kind of let our students know, because we find that people that come to us want to learn a little bit more of a broader spectrum.
Expand a little more,
How can I have these sensitivities, but what does it look like for me in my life?
It's really exciting because there are so many different ways to work mediumship into your daily life. Now that we have covered a few different experiences, how would you use mediumship, and how do you think you're doing it already? Okay, where in your life do you already use mediumship? Okay, keep in mind, mediumship is the translation or transmission from spirit energy to physical form.
And honestly, I think, someone that has a religious practice or spiritual practice that has a faith-based experience in their life, that has a regular prayer practice, is going to experience mediumship, although they don't necessarily call it that. Like they say a prayer and they get an answer to that prayer in their heart.
Revelation.
Right? And like a little child can be like, I feel like I should do this. I feel like God told me this, or, whatever your religious construct is, that at its basis, primal, simplest form is mediumship.
Thank you guys for joining us.
And we'll be back to chop it up with our YouTube fam.
#YouTube fam.
Faster than 2 shakes of a unicorn's tail after he's pooped rainbow frosting on your carpet. But I want to clarify, like I have done before, girl unicorns do not poop. on carpets.
No, they wait and they do it privately in some ether world universe.
It doesn't even, it just like,
They don't even,
it teleports.
it's glitter. It's teleported glitter. That's where rainbows come from. If you like this video, hit that like button 5 times.
And if you have any insider stuff you want to know, let us know in the comments.
And for more live hangouts, behind the scenes secrets, and mind hacking pro tips,
Be sure to subscribe.
and click that bell, whether it's over here or whether it's over here. I don't know yet.
He's got to decide at one point.
To turn notifications on
So you're the first to know.
when we drop a new video.
Or go live.
And we know that time is a valuable and precious resource, and the fact that you guys have chosen to spend that with us, we absolutely honor and appreciate that. But most importantly, that you are here to level up your skills, take your life and your business to a completely new level. We honor that even more. Thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you on the next video.
See you in the next video or in the astral realm.
In the astral.
Starseed.
Boom, boom.
Good night, guys.